Hello, my name is Andy Straub, and I'm a graduate student at Northeastern University in the College for Professional Studies. This is a presentation that I put together for EDU 6050, Education as an Advanced Field of Study. The assignment asked us to look at different controversies in higher education. We then chose a controversy and researched it throughout the semester. The controversy that I chose to examine is developmental education courses, to find out if they're a good refresher for students or a hindrance to graduation. The first thing that I discovered when presenting findings to classmates and colleagues is that not everyone is aware of what developmental education courses are. Developmental education courses can be found at institutes of higher ed all over the country, and they're especially common at open enrollment schools such as community colleges like the one I work for. Sometimes called remedial education, they're defined as below college level non-credit courses and trainings in reading, writing, and math that are aimed at teaching students the academic competencies necessary to succeed in college level coursework. Essentially, these classes aim to bring underprepared students up to the level that their high school education should have gotten them to. Most college courses have a minimum reading, writing, and/or math requisite prior to registration. If a student tests below this requisite, either through ACT, SAT scores, or assessment tests like Compass or Accuplacer, then they cannot take the course, meaning that in order to advance through their degree, a student has no choice but to complete their developmental education courses. And yet, developmental education courses, when they do work, tend to work pretty well. Research suggests that community college students who take developmental math successfully show math skills comparable to students who did not need developmental classes at all. So if developmental education courses help a student boost their reading, writing, and math levels, then what's the controversy? Through my research, I found three major common themes that opponents of developmental education courses seem to reflect on: that they cost students unnecessary funds, that they prolong the amount of time that it takes a student to complete their degree, and that students who are enrolled in developmental education courses are less likely to finish their degree at all. Because they're not considered college level, developmental education courses do not count towards a college student's credits, even though they still have to pay the same tuition costs. Studies have shown that these courses are costing students and their families close to $1.3 billion in yearly out-of-pocket costs. And the worst part is that these credits will not count towards any degree, nor will they transfer to another institution as college-level credit. To many people, this is a whole lot of wasted money. There are also low completion rates for students who are placed into developmental education courses. In fact, these students are 74% more likely to drop out than their counterparts who did not take one at all. And I want to show a quick example of why that might be. At many institutions, there are multiple levels of developmental courses for both reading and writing. Many times, both the reading and writing levels must be the same in order for a student to take a freshman composition class, a course that is required at most institutions for most degrees. It is possible that a student may have to take at least 2 levels of developmental courses in each of those subjects, reading and writing, before being able to take that freshman comp class. That same student may have to take upwards of 3 levels of developmental math courses before getting into intermediate algebra. Potentially, this student could be taking up to 21 credits spanning over the course of at least 2 semesters of classes that wouldn't count towards a single thing on their degree. Also, if a student receives a particular grade in one of these developmental education classes, then they might have a completely different pathway. For instance, if a student receives an A in their Level 1 reading course, they may be eligible to skip Level 2 and go straight to Level 3. But their writing levels must also be the same. However, if that student's grade drops to a B+, they would have to take Level 2. It's no big surprise that one of the common complaints from students is that the sequence of courses is often too complicated and takes too long. This is why many students that are placed into developmental education courses end up dropping out of school altogether. And for those who actually do go on to finish their degree, those students still take 11 months longer than those who don't take a remedial course. This means one more year without being in the full-time workforce, and for a non-traditional student who possibly has a family, that extra year can be pretty significant. So what is the main solution to this controversy? Clearly, there's a disconnect between K through 12 and higher education if so many students are having to take developmental education courses in college when they should have learned that information in high school. What happens is that there's no major effort to provide curricular coherence and sequencing between the senior year and post-secondary education. So high school students are entering higher education with low rates of college readiness. And the onus falls on both parties, high school and college educators alike, to try and bridge the gap, something that they're not doing at the academic level or the policy level. Still, there will always be students who need extra assistance, and that's where a second solution comes into play. Complete College America suggests offering co-requisite courses to students who are still falling behind the college level scores. In these classes, the student will take a 4-credit class that also includes some extra attention for reading, writing, and math. This method was recently attempted by a massive overhauls of the community college systems in Virginia and North Carolina. While it's still too early to tell if the methods these states are using will be successful, in general, the reforms are considered to be positively working towards state goals of reducing the number of developmental education courses required of students. The main issue at hand is that there will always be students who require a little extra boosting of their core skills, and there's nothing wrong with that. This means that there will probably always be a need for developmental education courses. And really, as stated before, when it works well. Unfortunately, most of the time it doesn't work, and the cost and time is hindering the progress of a lot of students who are seeking to better themselves. While I don't have all the answers yet, I believe that there are some reforms that could help reduce the number of students that have to take these courses, including building stronger relationships between K through 12 and college institutions, and combining developmental education courses with college-level courses in order to expedite the skill-building process. With pushes to reform, we can help developmental education courses become more of a refresher and less of a hindrance. Thank you for listening to my presentation on developmental education. Please consult the articles listed on this reference page for more information on the topic.